Welcome to our present state versus history on Speaker. Here we are focused on the current events of our culture through the principles of our history, trying to make sense of the culture and the mindset of today. I am your host, Ray Mayfield.
Well, okay, folks, here we are back on the pod. We got these principles of freedom we've been dealing with. The principles our founding fathers used to put together our Constitution, and the importance of understanding what these are and how they play in our current life. We're trying to always get these ideas, I guess, into a place of relevance and currency or current relevancy, I guess what I'm trying to say, in our daily lives. And hope you're getting something out of this. I just want to say again, we're getting ready to have Chris Ann Hall from Florida. chrisannhall.com. That's her web address. There it is. You can check out her stuff there. She's got several books there. She's been involved in the attorney aspects of, should we say, constitutional law. I'm not going to get into her bio today. Those of you that know who she is, you know that she teaches on many aspects of the Constitution, goes around the country. She's got some fabulous material out there that if you got kids that you're teaching history to and are learning the Constitution at that age level, or even us adults, she's taught me many things that I was not taught in school. But there's a CD book, or whatever you want to call it, then a series that she's put out. It's called The Roots of Liberty. It goes over the history of how our founding fathers came up with the concepts that we're going over today. It's a fantastic material. We've got guys like Dan Fisher out here with the Black Robe Regiment, and he's written a book called Bringing Back the Black Robe Regiment. And those boys down there in Texas that are doing a wonderful job teaching things about the Constitution and the proper rule of government and the aspects of the Christian community being involved in these things. We've believed this lie that we're supposed to be silent. We're not supposed to have anything to do with politics and what have you. But the truth of the matter is we should be running this nation on the godly principles that it was founded on. And religion really doesn't have a whole lot to do with it, other than the fact that if you believe in God and you're serving God, then you're going to be considered a religious individual. And you can't get around that, so you just will accept it. You know, the National Center for Constitutional Studies, nccs.net, is another resource for constitutional information. They're the ones that put out this book, The 5,000 Year Leap. They've got other information as well. I promote that book heavily. I think it ought to be a standard read for any United States citizen to understand these basic principles of our Constitution. It's not a political driven book. It's not based on the ideology of the day. It's based on principles, and that's what we're talking about here. There are certain principles at work, certain principles and that have to be adhered to, and then everything else that we do is hinged, if you will, on those principles. You know, we're no longer a society, it seems like, that is living by their principles. We have no principles. We have no standards. We just think that anything goes and everything goes, and the only thing that breeds is chaos and anarchy, and all that comes down to is tyrant rule of a king again, because that's what anarchy becomes. You know, there becomes lawlessness. Law must come into force, and order must be restored. That's the only way a society of any kind can exist. I talked about this with people all the time, and they think I'm crazy. And we have a perfect example in our recent history. We had all these riots that broke out in this country that everybody seems to have forgotten about already. It's only been a couple of years ago. And if you recall, in Seattle, you know, there was a big promotion here about this autonomous zone, they called it. And, oh, we've squared off this little section of ground, and we've let these people come in here and just let them do whatever they want. And they're peaceably assembling, we were told. And I told my wife, I said, you watch this and just keep an eye on it, because and it won't be a matter of just a few short days or weeks. There will become a government developed within that so-called autonomous zone that is so anti-government, because somebody's going to become the ruler of the roost. And that's the way it always works. And sure enough, within a couple of months, we got some kind of bully system going on. We got them killing each other and shooting each other. Well, why does those things take place? Because by God, I'm in control. I'm the king, and I'm going to rule you over any means. It's the natural tendency of society. These are the principles that are at work here that the forefathers are talking about. It doesn't matter what labels you put on it or how you turn it to. It goes back to the philosophy of the 8-year-olds on the playground. And by God, I'm the king of the hill. And we're going to be the king. Everybody's wanting to be the top dog on the top of the pile. The problem is, when you become the top dog on top of the pile, everybody wants to knock you off. But not only that, you can't please everybody. So we're going to get into talking today a little bit about the proper role of government. It's one of the principles that we've been dealing with here. And we'll call this simply the proper role of government. It talks of very first principle in this aspect is, first of all, the power of government comes from the people. Now, that's a pretty basic element. Everybody you talk to says, oh, yeah, that's right. We're the people. This is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Well, what exactly does it mean to be able to say the government's power is derived of the people? Well, in the very first place, the people can only give the government power of which they possess. So if we have the inalienable right to protect our family and our property and our resources and all of these things around us, then that is a power that we possess. Not because government says we have the right to do that. We have the right to bear arms because government says so. No, we have the right to bear arms because we have the inalienable right given to us by God to protect our family and our property. And it is our very first priority to protect our family and walk in that peace and harmony. So that is a power that we can give to government. So it's a natural progress for government to have. What things come in force when you think of protecting property and protecting our rights, okay? That's the basic fundamental purpose of government, to protect our rights. Well, what's my right? Well, in this case we're talking about, it's my right to protect my family and my property. So it is the government's responsibility, if I give them the power to administer laws on my behalf, to assist in my right to protect my family and my property. Okay? So I give that right, or I have that right to that as a people, a society coming together, because I can't protect myself against all of the people of the society. So we create a police force. We create a common body of enforcement that we all can submit to, with a guideline of boundaries that we all agree are fair and just for it to operate within. So now the police officer comes to my house and he wants to look inside of my house. He can't do that unless he's went through due process. It comes forth with justifiable cause and has the justifiable permission with an outline description of what he's supposed to do and what he cannot do. And therefore, we submit to that. Why? Because we gave that power to the government and we willfully allow that to take place. Why? Because we know it's for the benefit of the whole society. And sometimes my own personal comfort has to be sacrificed a little bit with certain boundaries. It's not free reign. And that is how a harmony in a society operates together. This does not entitle them to be redistributing the stuff or the things that we have. That's overreach. For example, we have in this country the ability to grow and to prosper and to do what we want to do. And I'm all the time accused of having too many automobiles. I got stuff around here, most of it's junk, but at one time I had several running automobiles around. Now you look at some of my family members, and I don't know where they get it, but their yards look like car lots, and I have to just say, well, they just do what they know they've been told or what they've been taught. But anyway, so let's say these folks has got these cars and they got all these sitting around there, and the neighbor across the road over there, he decides that that just ain't right, because you can only drive one car at a time, right? What do you need with all these automobiles? Why in the world do you think you got to have a 1950 Chevy pickup and a 1967 car and a new Denali and a IROC Camaro and a 69 Firebird and a 32. Why do you need all this stuff? You can only drive one car at a time. Well, this is true. So let's say the neighbor over there, he says, well, Henry Huckham down the road here, he needs a car. So I'm just going to go over there to the neighbors, and I'm just going to take one of those that he's got sitting around because he don't need it, and I'm going to give that to the guy that needs his car. After all, that's only fair, right? He's got a right to drive a car too. Everybody else has got one. Why shouldn't he have one? Well, what's wrong with that? Well, we don't have the right to do that. We don't have the right to go to our neighbors and take this stuff. And we don't have the authority to go over there and claim possession of something that we deem he doesn't need any longer. Or even if he does need, but it's more benefit for this other person to have. And the government doesn't have the authority to do that either. That's called an overreach. It's called redistribution, if you will. Because we forget the basic law that says what Caesar gives away. Or principle, I guess would be a better word for that. What Caesar gives, Caesar can take. See? And so the government doesn't have the right to do those things. Why? Because I, as an individual, now if I want to give that to somebody, I have the right to do that. I can give it to them. I can keep it. I can not keep it. But they don't have the right to take that and give it to somebody else. It's not within the scope of the authority that has been given to them. It has nothing to do with protection. It's not protecting the rights of the other person there. Well, they have the right to have a car, so we're going to protect their right, and we're going to take that and we're going to give that to them because, after all, they have the right. No, that is not the clause or the idea behind the protection of the individual's rights and properties. Because what we have in this country is a philosophy called the right to prosper, the right to grow and to move and to move. And they say, well, that's what we got to help these people. We got to level this playing field. We got to take from the haves and give to the have-nots, because that's the government's responsibility to make sure everybody's got equal stuff and they got equal provisions to live. No, that's not the government's responsibility. It's the government's responsibility to make sure that the inalienable rights of every individual are protected and that man's stuff is not taken away from him and given to somebody else. However, we have this inherent need to help the poor, yes. And they say, well, if we just let the rich be prosperous, then we're going to have so many people are going to be so filthy rich. No, we need rich people, if you want to call them that, because most of those people are the industrialists, ones that are building factories, that are using their capital to further the industrial age. In the industrial age, that's exactly what happened. But they're using their capital to further the communities around them, because they want to make money and they want to live comfortable, but they also want to help the communities in which they live, most of them. And they want to work into the societies around them. You see, they had, even in the days of the Constitution, that they were writing, they had the French and the what we would call the liberal left running, saying, oh, we've got to